Hey, hold up, put that down. What are you doing here?
Walking up to the door.
Looks like you're about to swipe a package. Porch pirate.
No, sir, I'm delivering this.
Let me see some ID.
My wallet's in my truck right there on the street.
You're not going anywhere. Hand me your ID right now.
Yeah, it's in the truck. I'm with the courier.
Turn around for me. You're under.
For Marcus Thomas, carrying a box was just part of his work, a task completed. But for Officer Andrew Heath, it looked like a crime unfolding. When he saw a black man walking through a quiet neighborhood with a package, he didn't think of a delivery worker. He assumed it was a porch thief. He ignored the truck parked nearby, ignored the uniform, and ignored the facts, starting an investigation that would reveal the harsh reality of being black while working. What you witnessed was guilt assumed before proof, a man detained for simply doing his job. You saw the clash. Now, we'll share the full story and show the clear, simple evidence the officer missed, all because he was too focused on the man's skin color. If you believe going to work shouldn't be dangerous, tap that subscribe button. Marcus Thomas woke up at 5:30 on a Tuesday morning in January. The alarm blared sharply, pulling him from a sleep that never felt long enough. He shuffled to the shower, got dressed in layers, a thermal shirt, hoodie, green contractor vest, gray beanie, and grabbed a protein bar that would hold him over until he could get a proper meal around noon. By 6:15, he was at the distribution center on the east side of Columbus, loading packages into his delivery van. Marcus was 28 and had been working as an independent contractor for a courier service for 2 years. The work wasn't glamorous. Pay came from deliveries completed, not hours spent, which made speed and efficiency crucial. Every minute counted. Every stop mattered. The job had its obstacles. Addresses that didn't exist, apartment complexes with confusing layouts, barking dogs, customers who weren't from home, and the physical strain of carrying boxes upstairs, running between stops, and being on your feet for 10 hours. But Marcus didn't mind the work itself. It was honest and straightforward. You picked up a package, delivered it, and moved to the next one. There was a quiet satisfaction in that simplicity. What Marcus did notice, though he rarely spoke about it, was the way people sometimes looked at him. How white residents would watch from their windows as he neared their homes. How some would open their doors with wary eyes, as if a black man in a vest carrying their Amazon package was somehow more dangerous than any other delivery worker. He had learned to smile more, to speak clearly, to seem as harmless as possible. It was tiring, constantly performing harmlessness, but it was part of the job in ways the company handbook never mentioned. That Tuesday was busy. Marcus had 87 packages on his route, spread across 3 different suburbs on Columbus's north side. He'd been on the move since 7 a.m., handling his deliveries with practiced precision. By 2 in the afternoon, he was in Worthington, a quiet neighborhood with neat houses and streets lined with bare trees that would be lovely in spring, but now looked skeletal against the gray winter sky. The afternoon was crisp and sunny, a cold that wasn't biting but made you keep moving to stay warm. Marcus pulled his van onto Oakmont Drive and checked his scanner. 3 packages on this street. He found parking about 4 houses down from his first stop. The driveway he needed was blocked by a contractor's truck, so he had to improvise. He picked up the first package, a large box for a house at the end of the block, and started walking. His breath made small clouds in the cold air. His boots crunched on the salt scattered across the sidewalk. Just another delivery, just a few minutes before he could get back into the warm van and continue. He focused on the address labels, making sure each package matched the right house, when he heard a car pull up quickly behind him. Officer Andrew Heath had been with the Columbus Police Department for 8 years. At 34, he considered himself experienced, perceptive, and skilled at reading situations. Heath had been assigned to patrol the Worthington area for the past 6 months, and recently there had been reports of stolen packages in the neighborhood. Porch pirates, they called them, people who followed delivery trucks and snatched packages off doorsteps. The problem had gotten bad enough that the neighborhood watch sent frequent emails, and the police had increased patrols in response. Every officer on the beat was told to watch for suspicious behavior, for people who didn't belong, for anything that seemed off. So when Officer Heath turned onto Oakmont Drive and saw a black man walking on the sidewalk carrying a large box, his mind jumped to a conclusion. The man wore casual clothes, a vest and beanie, not a uniform. He was alone, moving between houses, holding a package. It looked suspicious, just like the warnings they'd been given. Heath didn't notice the delivery van parked a few houses down, hazard lights on. He didn't consider the many legitimate reasons someone might be carrying a box. All he saw was a black man with a package in a mostly white neighborhood. His training, his assumptions, and his biases all came together in one thought. This was a porch pirate. He pulled his patrol car up quickly, parking at an angle that blocked the sidewalk. His hand went to his body camera, switching it on as he jumped out. The camera's wide lens captured everything: the quiet street, the bare winter trees, and Marcus Thomas standing there with a box, clearly confused by the sudden police presence. "Hey, hold up, put that down, what are you doing here?" The officer's voice was sharp, forceful, like someone certain they'd caught a criminal. Marcus turned, his face showing confusion. He had been walking up to a house to deliver a package, and now a cop was shouting at him. Walking up to the door," Marcus answered calmly. Straightforward. He was doing exactly what he said, heading up to deliver a package. It should have been the most ordinary moment possible. A cop sees a delivery worker, maybe nods, maybe pays no attention, and moves on. But that wasn't what happened. "Looks like you're about to steal a package, porch pirate." There it was, the accusation, the assumption. Officer Heath had decided, based only on appearance and location, that Marcus was a thief. He wasn't asking to learn anything. He was stating what he believed was the truth. Marcus felt his heartbeat jump. He'd been pulled over before. He'd been stopped and questioned before. Every black person he knew had stories just like this. But this one felt different. It was happening while he was working, while he was literally in the middle of doing his job. "No, sir, I'm delivering this." His voice stayed steady. He knew anger, even justified anger, would only make the situation worse. He had to stay calm. He had to explain. He was a delivery driver, delivering a package. It should have been simple. "Let me see some ID." The officer wasn't hearing him. He had already decided Marcus was guilty and was now working through the steps of an arrest. Marcus pointed toward his van down the block. "My wallet's in my truck, right there on the street." The van was clearly visible, a white delivery vehicle with magnetic company logos on both sides, hazard lights flashing, parked properly along the curb about 70 feet away. It was right there. The proof Marcus was legitimate sat in plain view. Officer Heath didn't look. He didn't glance down the road. He didn't take in anything Marcus said. He was locked into his story. Black man, package theft. "You're not going anywhere. Hand me your ID right now." "Yeah, it's in the truck. I work for a courier service." Marcus said it again, trying to make the officer understand. "I'm working. I'm with a courier service. This is my job. Look at my truck. Look at my vest. Look at the obvious clues that show what's going on." But Officer Heath had stopped listening to anything that challenged his assumptions. This is called confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret new information as proof of what you already believe. The officer had decided
Marcus was a criminal, so everything Marcus said was twisted into the words of someone caught in the act, trying to talk their way out of trouble. "Turn around for me. You're being detained." The body cam caught Marcus's face as those words sank in. Detained for delivering a package, for doing his job, for walking on a public sidewalk in broad daylight. Shock, exhaustion, and something else showed in his expression, a quiet, bitter recognition. Part of him had always known that no matter how hard he worked, how professional he stayed, how carefully he followed the rules, something like this could still happen. Marcus turned slowly, deliberately, keeping his hands in view. The package stayed in his arms. Officer Heath came up from behind, pulled out handcuffs, and locked Marcus's wrists together. The metal clicked shut, a sound the body cam picked up clearly. "Sir, my truck is right there. You can see it. I'm a delivery driver. Check the truck." Marcus's voice carried a note of desperation now. He was handcuffed on a sidewalk for doing his job, and the proof of his innocence was 70 feet away, but the officer still didn't look. Officer Heath walked Marcus to the patrol car, opened the back door, and started guiding him inside. This moment would later be examined in internal reviews, depositions, and news stories. A working delivery driver, in his uniform, with his van clearly visible down the street, being arrested for theft while delivering a package. Then the homeowner appeared. The front door of the house Marcus had been approaching opened, and a woman in her 50s stepped onto the porch. She had heard the commotion, noticed the police car through her window, and come outside to see what was happening. "What's going on?" she called out. Officer Heath looked up. Ma'am, I've detained a suspected porch pirate. Has anyone stolen a package recently? The woman looked puzzled. No, I'm actually expecting a delivery today. She glanced at Marcus, saw the box he had been holding now on the sidewalk, and squinted at the label on its side. Wait, is that my package? That's my name on the box. Time seemed to freeze. Officer Heath looked at the box. He looked at the woman. He looked at Marcus, handcuffed and standing next to the patrol car. And for the first time since stepping out of his vehicle, he actually glanced down the street. The delivery van was impossible to miss. White, commercial, hazard lights flashing, magnetic company logos on both sides. Parked legally, clearly linked to the delivery Marcus had been making. It had been there the entire time. The reflection of Officer Heath's face in the patrol car window, captured on the body cam, showed the instant he realized the truth. Not embarrassment, not shame, just a brief, quiet moment of recognition as reality finally broke through his assumptions. He walked over to Marcus, unlocked the handcuffs, and stepped back. Marcus rubbed his wrists, breathing heavily, not from work, but from the adrenaline crash that hits after your body has been in full fight or flight mode and realizes the danger is gone. "All right, you're free to go," Officer Heath said. His tone was businesslike, almost casual, as if being wrongfully handcuffed and detained was just a minor hiccup, a small mistake that could be ignored. Marcus stared at him. "That's it? You're not going to apologize?" "I was doing my job. There have been thefts in the area. You understand? I told you I was delivering a package. I told you my truck was right there." Officer Heath's expression stiffened slightly. He didn't like being questioned. He didn't like his authority being challenged, even when he had just clearly abused it. "Like I said, you're free to go. Complete your delivery." He walked back to his patrol car, got in, and drove off. No apology, no acknowledgement of what he had done wrong, just left. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, still trying to process what had just happened. The homeowner approached cautiously. "Are you okay?" Marcus wasn't sure how to answer. Physically, he was fine. Emotionally, not at all. Professionally, he was now behind schedule and would have to explain to his dispatcher why this stop had taken 20 minutes instead of 2. "I'm fine," he said, "because that's what you say." He picked up the package, carried it to her porch, scanned the delivery confirmation, and handed it over. She thanked him, apologized for the situation, and offered to be a witness if he needed one. He thanked her, returned to his van, and sat in the driver's seat for 5 full minutes before he felt steady enough to continue his route. That evening, after finishing his deliveries, Marcus filed a formal complaint with the police department. He also reported the incident to his company, which immediately contacted their legal team. The body cam footage was requested through official channels and reviewed by several people: supervisors, internal affairs investigators, and eventually attorneys. The footage was damning. It showed an officer who had jumped to conclusions based on appearance rather than evidence. It showed an officer who ignored obvious context, the van, the vest, the explanations, in favor of a story he had already decided on. It showed an officer who had detained and handcuffed a man guilty of nothing except working while black. The department launched an internal investigation. Officer Andrew Heath was interviewed multiple times. His patrol routes were examined. His past stops were reviewed for similar patterns. What investigators found was troubling. Not an obvious act of racism, but a pattern of stops and interactions that disproportionately targeted black residents and visitors in mostly white neighborhoods. Heath was placed on administrative leave while the investigation continued. After 6 weeks, the findings were clear. He had carried out an unlawful detention without reasonable suspicion, failed to properly investigate before moving to arrest, and had shown bias in assuming criminal behavior. He was suspended for 30 days without pay and required to complete bias training before returning to duty. But Marcus wasn't satisfied with internal discipline. 3 months after the incident, he filed a federal civil rights lawsuit under Section 1983, alleging unlawful detention, false arrest, and racial profiling. The lawsuit named both Officer Heath and the Columbus Police Department. The case was strong. The body cam footage captured everything.
A jury would see a man at work being treated like a criminal for no reason other than his skin color. City attorneys recognized this and pushed for a settlement. 8 months after being handcuffed on a suburban sidewalk, Marcus received a settlement offer, $75,000 and an agreement that the department would introduce new training on implicit bias and proper procedures before detaining someone. Marcus accepted. It wasn't about the money, it was about the recognition that what happened to him was wrong, unacceptable, and needed systemic change. The story made local news, then regional news, and eventually went viral. The Bodycam footage was seen millions of times. People were outraged, though the reactions followed familiar patterns. Some saw clear evidence of racial profiling. Others defended the officer, saying he was just being cautious in a neighborhood with theft problems. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds, with everyone interpreting the video to match what they already believed. But here's the question that should linger for anyone watching. If Marcus Thomas had been white, would Officer Heath have even stopped him? Imagine the same scene, a white man in his 20s, wearing a vest and beanie, walking down a sidewalk in a quiet neighborhood, carrying a box, with a delivery van visible down the street. Would a cop have slammed on the brakes and immediately accused him of theft? Or would the officer have made the far more reasonable assumption that this was just a delivery driver doing his job? The answer is clear. A white delivery worker in the same situation would probably have been ignored completely, or at most asked a quick, polite question that would have been resolved instantly. The interaction would have lasted 30 seconds, not 20 minutes. There would have been no handcuffs, no detention, no trauma. Marcus Thomas was treated like a criminal, not because of anything he did, but because of how he looked in a place where Officer Heath didn't expect to see him. That's racial profiling. It's not always violent, it's not always obvious. Sometimes it's just an officer seeing a black man with a box and immediately thinking thief instead of worker. The phrase "working while black" captures this particular injustice. It's not just about being followed in stores or questioned in wealthy neighborhoods. It's about having your legitimate work, your honest labor, your professional duties viewed with suspicion. It's about being a delivery driver treated like a porch pirate, a repairman questioned like a burglar, doing everything right and still assumed to be doing something wrong. Marcus still works as a delivery driver. The settlement money helped Marcus buy his own van and start working independently, cutting out the contractor middleman who had taken a portion of his earnings. He's more successful now than he was before the incident, but he's also more cautious, more aware, more drained by the constant need to prove he's legitimate. He keeps copies of his business license, registration, and ID in multiple places. Now he wears a brighter vest. He installed a dash cam in his van that records continuously. These are the adjustments you make when you realize your work clothes alone aren't enough to prevent being seen as a threat. The body cam footage of his arrest is now used in police training across the country as a clear example of what not to do, how unconscious bias can lead to unlawful detention, how assumptions based on race can override obvious evidence, and how failing to properly investigate before escalating can violate someone's civil rights. Officer Andrew Heath returned to duty after his suspension. He completed bias training, received a notation in his file, and continued patrolling. Whether he learned anything from the incident is unclear. Whether he now sees black residents differently is unknown. Whether he would make the same mistake again is a question the people of Columbus shouldn't have to wonder about. What is certain is that Marcus Thomas did nothing wrong. He was working. He was delivering a package. He was doing exactly what thousands of delivery drivers do every day across America. And for that, he was handcuffed and detained because an officer saw his skin color before seeing his profession. That isn't an accident. That isn't a misunderstanding. It's a system of assumptions and biases that treats black people as suspects first and humans second. Until that system changes, not just through diversity training or policy updates, but through a complete rethinking of who gets the benefit of the doubt, stories like Marcus's will keep happening. He was working. He should have been safe. The fact that he wasn't tells you everything you need to know about what it means to work while black in America.